is happening, people? Welcome back to the Scarfey Spurs podcast. In this episode, then, we'll be previewing the North London derby. Huge game and a lot of unknown and uncertainty around this game. Arsenal dropping a lot of points in 2026. Last time out as well, dropping 2 points against Wolves. Absolute meltdown right there, and some good stuff for us to see, I'm sure, as Spurs fans. But for Tottenham, appointing Igor Tudor on an interim basis makes it interesting and a lot of unknown. Let's introduce them, my fantastic panel that joined me tonight. Billie T, firstly, thank you so much for your time. How are you doing?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. And, it's quite sad, isn't it? But last night was, one of the best things I've experienced this season, which says a lot about our season, but that's the way it is, unfortunately. And feel a lot better going into this game now. It's now absolutely massive for both teams. So it's going to be huge game.
Yeah, absolutely. Billie, thank you so much. Always good to have you. Jordan, welcome back on for your second appearance. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, Harry. Thanks for having me back on. To echo what Billie said there, it's always nice have a little midweek hate watch. Always gets the mood up a little bit there.
Good stuff. Thank you very much. I believe my internet is crashing a little bit there. What's going on there? But Gary, thank you so much as well for coming on. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. Yeah, good to be back. Kind of echo the lads, really. For quite excited for Sunday. Normally I'd probably be dreading it, but relatively excited for Sunday. Hoping for a new, good bounce from Igor Tudor, and let's hope for some positivity.
Fingers crossed to get the bounce that we need under Igor Tudor. Don't know what's happening with internet, but hopefully you can all hear me. Thank you very, very much. But let's get straight into it then, because as with always with Tottenham, we get some kind of breaking news, and we have, and to do with sponsorship. So let me read out then the latest news. So Matt Law from the Daily Telegraph has posted on X to say that Tottenham have lost a key sponsor worth millions to the club as they face lots of damage in terms of a Premier League relegation fight and missing out on. On to say that sources have blamed several reasons as to why the sponsor will walk away from Tottenham at the end of the season. The reasons being a 17th place finish in the league was deemed unacceptable. The club have failed to present a clear roadmap or reassurances of how they plan to improve domestic performances and results. Inability to sign the best players. No surprise there. Clients have been left unimpressed by the number of empty seats inside the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for big games and the anger of fans. Many sponsors have been dismayed by the lack of communication from the very top of the club since Levy's departure, with many yet to be even introduced to Vinay and the Lewis family. And that bit comes, I'm sure, as a little bit of a shock. Gary, can I start with you? Of course, this is big news because you're talking about a lot of money here for the club, whether we go up or stay down. Whatever happens in that kind of relegation dogfight, it still looks either way that we're going to lose a lot. How do you view this? It looks like an absolute mess, doesn't it?
Continued mess really from ownership and those in charge. How someone like Vinay Venkatesham or anybody really on the board cannot essentially introduce themselves to your key sponsors is quite worrying, especially of a business as the size of what Tottenham is, and in terms of Enoch as well. Pretty worrying in terms of that. Not surprising, I guess. It's kind of one thing, but it is the continuation of the downfall of our football club. We have massively regressed over the number of years, and this is a continuation of that. Big sponsors are not going to pay big money for failure and for unhappiness around the stadiums. And let's be frank about it: empty seats. They don't want to be associated with that, so they'll likely take the money elsewhere. I don't know who it is. That hasn't been revealed yet, but I'm sure we'll find that out pretty quickly. But it's just a continuation of the downfall of what's going on at the football club at the moment, unfortunately.
100%. I'm sure that'll come out, as you rightly said there. Gary, thank you very much. I mean, Billie, this is not a good look at all, is it? Whether it be Vinay or for the Lewis family or for Tottenham as a whole. Talk us through your thoughts of this news just coming out.
No, it's not a good look at all, but I think it's sort of indicative of the start that they've made to their tenure. Really, it's just been an absolute shambles from the beginning, and I think the one saving grace of this is I've always kind of felt that you need to hit these people where it hurts, and where it hurts for these people is the finances. So hopefully this might make them take stock, or either sell the club or soon they have to act differently. I think it's difficult because obviously fans have made no secret of the fact they're frustrated. And you saw the story this week about the trust that had a meeting with them, and then they tried to change the minutes of that. So I'm not particularly sure they care too much about what fans think, but what they probably do care about is sponsorship and money and all that kind of stuff. So I welcome this kind of news, to be honest, because at least it's right in front of them now that their failure has drastic consequences, and the only way to get out of it is to spend more money. So let's hope that happens.
Definitely, thank you very much. And I also just to add on, I think he finished 17th. Of course, that's not ideal, but then you assume after that, failing to present, just in the words here, a clear roadmap, no reassurances, no communication, not signing big players. I mean, it just sounds like this is what the fans have been saying, and the sponsors now also saying the same thing. So, Jordan, have you got anything to add to this? I mean, it doesn't come to a surprise, as I hinted, and as I also said there, a lot of these problems are what we've all been feeling, but it just feels quite significant for a sponsor to be able to walk away. So how do you view this?
Yeah, it feels massive, and as I say, it looks. This is something that, as you said, Spurs fans, we sort of known that these people are running the club like a business. There's, the famous thing, there's no passion in football. That was when, Enoch took over. It isn't a shock, but it's nice to see that the fact that they are treating it a business for so long, and if a business fails, then it has a huge domino effect on, the finances of not just the business, but, the sort of environment that exists in as well. And as what Billie said there, it's so nice to see that we do have a little bit of power in, okay, let's not go to the games, let's not overspend, and let's actually hit on where it hurts. So it's nice. I really do hope that this is a wake-up call that we've sort of been looking for a long time. It seemed like the owners have always been happy to sort of keep the football side ticking but make money on the business. If they can't, then it seems that, their only option is to then start investing in the club that they've actually bought, and not just the business.
Definitely. I agree with what we've all said on that. Thank you very much. Before we get on to the North London derby, then just briefly on the new manager, Igor Tudor, to quickly all get your thoughts now. The dust has kind of settled on the appointment, and what you've made, what he said as well so far. So, John, if I can come back around with you and start with you this time, because of course it's been a little while since you were last on. How do you feel about this appointment? Do you think it's right in terms of short-term impact? He's got a track record of coming in and making that real impact. First kind of 9 games.
Yeah, I just saw, just before we jumped on, I saw it was his last 7 appointments. The first game was 6 wins and a draw. Obviously, it's circumstantial, of course, but I don't mind it. I think there needs to be some sort of roadmap, and as you've just seen on the tweet before, that seems to be something that we clearly don't do. I'd like to think that there is a plan in place for a more longer-term appointment. I think Tudor has shown that when he can come in, he can not only settle the ship, but also push forward as well. It'd be very interesting on how we adapt tactically, but the players, obviously, you need that buy-in from the start, and there's probably not a better situation to be on a slightly struggling Arsenal team than having a home North London derby to not only just kind of rejuvenate the players, but to get the whole side on board and all moving towards one direction. So I'm sort of hopeful, if I'm honest. I think from what it could have been, I think it's one of the best options, that the way it's worked out, yeah.
Okay, Jordan, thank you very much. Thank you, Gary. If I come to you, what are your thoughts, A, on the appointment, but B, on, how he's kind of taken to the media so far in terms of, sat down first words from the club? I mean, I personally, and I think a lot of fans will agree with this, like what you've said, let's just say, in terms of we want to win football matches, not play for draws, things like that the fans could really get behind. So, what have you made of what he said so far?
I think coming out and not mentioning that you're going to lose football games as being one of the remits of your season is a really good start with our fan base, and especially where we are at the moment. So to not hear that was quite refreshing. To be honest, a lot of the words that he said are refreshing. It's been quite good, positive. He's quite realistic in the fact that he knows clearly what his remit is, and he's not looking past that. In a way, that could be quite nice for him. He knows he's got 12 Premier League games, and that's it. So he just has to get the players all on board. He's going to do that. He's an intimidating figure, as you can see in the picture there. He's done relatively well in various countries as well, especially coming in as an interim. So excited to see what he does. For me, my judgment of him and his style and what he brings probably starts at the Fulham game rather than this one. I think this might be a little bit too soon for him. However, Arsenal are not really struggling, but they're kind of creeping over the line at the moment. If we can stick one in on them as well, that's a fantastic start to his managerial career. Look, if we go and beat them though, which is going to be a very, very difficult task, he's going to get a huge amount of support immediately following that, if he hasn't already. So yeah, I'm interested by the appointment because it's the first time really in Premier League, especially at the club, that we've looked outside the club for assistance. And traditionally, clubs don't do that. If you need an interim, you look internal. You look at someone that knows the players, knows the club, knows the culture, knows the fans. And we've gone somewhere completely different with this. So this can go one of two ways. This could absolutely fall on our arse, and in 2 months he's sacked and we're having to find somebody else. Or he brings us what we need and it's 3 or 4 wins and we're happy, and then we see what happens in the summer. So it's very, very much in the balance.
Absolutely. And I know the games are tough, especially the next couple. I mean, Fulham away, our record there, and of course Arsenal before that. But I think if we said win 3 or 4 games out of the 12, I don't think it's asking for too much. That's the thing. So though it's difficult, the situation we're in, hopefully it's achievable in the same way. Gary, thank you very much. Billy, give us your thoughts then on the appointment of Igor Tudor, but also what's happened with the coaching staff, because half have stayed, half have gone. How do you view this? Because the easy thing would have been, wouldn't it, to just say, look, let's keep the same staff here. But do you view it as quite important that he has brought some of his staff along with, such as his assistant coach that's been with him previously, also managed other clubs? Do you think that's key?
Yeah, I think it is key. So yeah, just going back to the appointment overall, I'm sort of pleased with it because. At the beginning, I was a bit skeptical because I didn't really know much about him, and he wasn't one of the names that was sort of mentioned before. But the more that I sort of hear about it and the more I learn about him, I think he's essentially a specialist interim, which I think is what we need. And I think, giving him his coaching staff is really, really important because although he's not going to be here long term, he has such an important job. And the fact that if we don't, if it goes wrong, I mean, we could actually get relegated. So I think it's really important to back him fully, and I'm glad that we're doing that. I think in terms of the coaching staff, I think what was important is that the set-piece coach has stayed, which I think is good because I think, the only real positive of the Thomas Frank era is that, we were improved from set pieces and we're one of the better set-piece teams in the league. And I think Heitinger is obviously an interesting one because he only came in 33 days and left. But I think the more you read about that, I think it's obvious that he was attached to Frank. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm definitely more positive about it the more I read about it than I was before. Because when I first heard the news on Friday, I was a bit skeptical. But I think he could be exactly what we need because I don't think anyone's expecting him to be here beyond summer, beyond the season. Sorry, and I think we can be pretty clear on where we're heading in terms of a manager. I think that seems pretty obvious to me. But I think, just get the job done, give him all that he needs with his coaching staff, and then hopefully, he'll get a nice bonus and we'll move on to a manager that we want.
That's the thing. I think Spurs fans view it as Igor, come in, make an instant impact, win games, also play to win games, then leave us in a good position, good run in the Champions League, well safe in the Premier League. And Pochettino comes in. I think that's what the majority of Spurs fans will want. Billy, thank you very much. Jordan, I suppose all our thoughts really are irrelevant. I think all that matters, tell me if you disagree, but is that we get behind Igor Tudor, we get behind the players, because really, some would say, I want to get your thoughts as well, that every game from now to the end of the season, particularly in the league, is a final in terms of, we're probably still seen as unlikely to go down, but definitely not impossible. No team's too good really to go down. So yeah, what were your thoughts on that?
No, 100%. Every game is going to be super, super important. It's going to be interesting on how, one, quickly, but two, effectively, he gets his system or tactics or coaching values across. Whether he can sort of implement that, as we've mentioned here. I don't think it will probably be in the Arsenal game, but maybe the Fulham and going forward from that. I think the only positive there is there sort of wasn't much to, there wasn't a huge already set in place thing with Frank. It wasn't like going from Ange Ball to suddenly let's go to Conte or Mourinho. Frank, there wasn't much that you could actually say that this is what we do apart from smash long balls and hit crosses. So I think that one's actually going to play into his palm a little bit. But what you're saying, yeah, every game does feel super, super important from now. And not only just for this season and immediate future, but that kind of longer term plan. You need to establish yourself as, we can't be a joke in this league because teams are just going to improve and are going to get better. It's like, are we going to be happily middling around the areas that we're in now? Obviously not. So it needs to be a not only just on pitch performance, but results driven and boost the actual profile of this season. So it's not a complete joke,
100%. Jordan, thank you. And the positive thing for Igor Tudor is that the league is tightly congested. But if you, again, were maybe class half empty person, you look at it and go, actually, if you look behind 4 or 5 points, Tottenham are all of a sudden in that bottom 3. So again, depends the way you look at it. And some people like to look at it, go with so many points off the top half. So some are still looking up there. So again, it depends how you approach, I think, life in general, but in particular football. But before we get on to Sunday's North London derby, 2 hypothetical questions. I want to know, you might find it easy, you might find it difficult. I've just thought at the top of my head. So Gary, I'll start with you. The first one is that I appreciate this is unlikely, but let's say somehow, deserved or not deserved, Tottenham managed to win the Champions League, right? Win the Europa League last year, win the Champions League this year. Would you, and I know this is good, we haven't got the, luxury, have we, of hindsight or anything like that, and the context is always vital, but if we win the Champions League, would you, appoint him on a permanent rather than go for Maurizio Pochettino?
I don't know. I wasn't expecting that question, if I'm honest. For me, winning a trophy, it is a really hard question because we've kind of got something to look back on as well. We kind of can look at last season, and however you felt about him, Ange deserved the right for season 3. I mean, I didn't personally. I was very much Ange out. I didn't believe in what he was doing, but he earned that right. He dared to do. So if I'm going by that, then yes, he should. But equally, I think that our problems as a football club run much deeper than winning a trophy. The split between fan base itself and then fan base and club are quite damning and quite poor at the moment, and I think that needs to be repaired. And I genuinely believe that Maurizio can repair a large element of that and allow us some of that to quieten down, and then allow the club to sort of repair itself, however odd that sounds. And it's a really difficult question because it's probably never going to happen equally, but yeah, hopefully that answers it, because I wasn't expecting that.
No, it was. No, I do apologise. It wasn't a plan or anything like that, let me assure you. But just a quick thought there. Thank you. And, I'm fair on you as well, of course, to go first. It's very difficult. You don't have time to think or know what's coming. So apologies for picking on you there. But Billy, I'll come to you and ask you the same question. You mentioned there, and a lot of people agree with you. I personally do myself that this is a short-term appointment that won't be here more than likely for next season. But does that whole picture change if he wins the Champions League? Although I'll say it once again, although it's unlikely.
Listen, if he wins the Champions League, he can do whatever he wants, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I don't care if he gets another, year after that. And I think, in that specific hypothetical situation, if someone wins the Champions League, they're going to stay. Let's be honest. It's just the way that the game is going. It's like the same happened with, Di Matteo when the Champions League with Chelsea. He'll be a Tottenham legend forever. He'll go down as our most successful manager ever to win the Champions League. So yeah, I think it's, in that specific situation, obviously he would have to stay. Like, there's no doubt about it. But let's dream about that happening. So I want Poch back as much as anyone does. But my God, if Tottenham won the Champions League, then yeah, I mean that guy is staying for sure.
Okay, thank you. Well, you'd think so. That's for sure. Billy, thank you. Jordan, I'm going to ask you the same question. You've had the benefit, the luxury, if you like. I mean, it's still a difficult question, but listening to 2 answers there, what's you thinking?
Yeah, I was just making notes what they said so I can copy it, really. No, I really agree with Gary. I think the kind of unification of where the team needs to be from pretty much every asset, from, the board to the players to fans, really need to be a focus. I'm not sure that can be done under the current sort of leadership team. I don't know. It's such a cliche thing to say, but they're not Tottenham people. And if we're honest, the Lewis family aren't even football people. So I hope that they're not just seeing the probably inevitable Pochettino rehiring as okay, that's our job done now. That's down to him to reunite everything. I do think it will go a long way, even if it's short term, to doing that. But going back to the question, I don't think you can sack a manager that has won the Champions League. I think it sort of sets quite a bad precedent for then anyone coming in to the next job. It's like, oh, the last two managers have won a European trophy and now they've gone. It's like, what's the sort of long-term project? What are we actually building here? So I guess in short, if you win the same thing, yeah, if he wins the Champions League, he can have a statue outside if he wants. But then I think you have to give him at least, the first 6 months of the next season and see how it can be built and see how he can develop. And then obviously with the longer term sort of pipeline, hopefully is planned for after him, no matter what he does.
Okay, thank you very much. And the second question, I personally think is maybe a little bit easier, but again, by all means, you could completely prove me wrong. I have a different opinion on that. And the conversation's died down on social media, but it was quite hot at the start of the year, and that is in terms of relegation and Champions League, what is seen as more important. Gary, I'll start with you once again, if you don't mind. I mean, it's super tough for you. I do appreciate this. One might be a little bit easier. So would you rather, if I gave you the choice now, so you'd finish 18th, which means we get relegated and get straight out of the Champions League at the first opportunity to go out in the next round, or you finish, a case of where you how's the best way to put it? Right, let me think about this. So it's about a case of what means more, really, to put it lightly. What means more to you, staying in the Premier League or winning the Champions League? You could just choose one.
Staying in the Premier League. I know the Champions League is absolutely that is just the pinnacle. Equally, if we went down to the Championship, there's a possibility the club is in grave danger in terms of financially, sponsorships, players. I've no doubt we'll probably be able to get out, but the financial impact of our club could be damaged quite significantly. And we have to stay in the Premier League. There is no two ways about it. And I know that it's really annoying that we have to sit and have these conversations at Tottenham Hotspur are potentially, we are in a relegation fight, and it is worrying. But for me, the survival needs to be paramount.
Gary, thank you very much. Billy, do you agree, Gary, there that the survival, staying in the Premier League, is more important than winning the Champions League?
I think, deep down, my head does, but my heart would just say I'd probably do anything for a Champions League at this point. But I mean, the only club where this could probably be an actual conversation, aren't we? It's just mad that could happen to us, and it almost happened to us last year as well. But I think I'd probably sell my soul for a Champions League win. So, but I think the long-term implications of relegation would be absolutely catastrophic. But it will be quite funny to see the club playing, in the Championship and then the Champions League next year at the same time. So I'd probably just about do it just to see how fun it would be.
Yeah. We might get some more wins from my well, I don't have a season ticket, but for season ticket holders and people like me that pay every week, we might get a few more wins if we go in the Championship. So that's
you get a few more games as well, a couple more games as well. So.
There you go. So more money they've got to get out of us. They probably why they want us to go down now is because they know they're going to get more ticket revenue.
I'm just going to say the price won't go down. It definitely won't. Of course, you're right to mention with more games as well. So, hey, Tottenham as always. It'll be a Tottenham thing, wouldn't it? Let's be real about it. To either finish 17th and win the Champions League or play Champions League in the Championship. Both of them just feels like, probably a first, and Tottenham will be there. But Jordan, I'm going to ask you as well, what for you is more important? Is it that kind of short-term big success of winning the Champions League, or do you think, look, just got to stay in the Premier League because I don't know what will happen if we go down?
Yeah, if I'm honest, I think we've got to commit to the bit, man. I think we've got to go down and win the Champions League. I think coming off the back of a season, which is, the whole hypotheticals, you wouldn't take 17th in a trophy, would you? And everyone's like, no, we'd never have to do that. So imagine going that times 10. You wouldn't take Champions League and Championship. I think we've got to commit to the bit. Not only will it be, the biggest trophy that the club has ever won, I think in terms of I hope that it doesn't take going down to the Championship for the reset that it needs, but it's probably the biggest reset that a club can get. Obviously, this hasn't always worked. You've seen teams go down and sort of stay down for a while, but you see teams like Villa, West Ham, maybe not West Ham as much, but Newcastle, Sunderland now, who have spent time both in the Premiership, go down and then come back up with a longer term goal. Obviously, Newcastle with the big buyout and stuff is slightly different. But yeah, Champions League, man. I think if you offer me any situation where the club wins the Champions League, I think I'd have to take it, honestly.
If you look at it as well, like Leicester City, they won the Premier League. Look where they are right now.
They might not even stay up in the Championship. Yeah.
That look how quickly something can happen to your club when you get relegated. And yeah, me and Billy are probably old enough to remember Sheffield Wednesday being in the Premier League and people like that. Sheffield Wednesday are in serious grave danger as a football club itself being just alive. So that a lot of that comes down to exiting these competitions. But yeah, if you take Leicester City as an example of being relegated, and they won the Premier League 10 years ago, so things can change massively. And I would give everything I could to see us win the Champions League, but I would much prefer to see our club survive than win a trophy.
Okay, thank you very much. Interesting, it's a split opinion there. Thank you very much. All provided good reasons as always. I'm going to be horrible, Billy, and I could put you on the spot, and by all means do dodge it. So if I literally, I said to you, look, you've got to make a decision on the spot. For Tottenham, would you rather finish 17th and ENIC stay for 20 years, or finish 18th and ENIC leave, boom, in the summer?
God, that is an absolutely killer question. Okay. So I'm going to say that ENIC will stay, but I'm just praying that if we finish 17th, then these guys have to wake up and spend money and realise that we are in a situation, that cannot be repeated. So I'm going to take the optimistic route and say I will let them stay because, Gary is right. If we did get relegated, if you throw in a Champions League as well, then I'll take the relegation.
Okay.
But
I was going to say, what about throw Vinay and Yaron Lang or anyone in it?
Well, if they're staying, then I'll take the relegation. If they're staying, I'll take the relegation.
Love it. Good stuff.
Going down would be absolutely catastrophic. But surely even ENIC, if we finish below 12th this year, they have to wake up and realise that if you don't start spending now, please just sell the club and go, because there'll be 2 seasons in a row, mid-table, bottom half. Just something has to be a wake-up call one day, you would hope.
You'd hope, you think, but probably not. That's reality. But Billy, thank you very much. Gary, I think you're absolutely right, by the way, to highlight the importance of staying in the Premier League. But again, if I put this question to you, 17th place we finished and ENIC stayed for 20 plus years, or if ENIC left in the summer, but it meant we went down to the Championship.
That would be 45 years in total. They would be here. So nearly half a century of ENIC.
Wow. Real deal.
I'm as much a ENIC problem as the next person. However, the survival and long-term future of the club means more to me, and I want to see it thriving where for the next generations after me. And my concern is clubs like Leicester, Coventry, Swindon, that people have said in the chat, and Sheffield Wednesday and multiple other people. They've regressed massively. Charlton Athletic, I remember Charlton Athletic were really close to being challenging for Europe, and they had Alan Kirbishley in charge, and everyone was like, they got to get rid of him to progress. They're in League One for years, League Two, Championship. Yeah, you can't want that for your football club at all. I'd have to stick with ENIC and hope that they start spending a bit of money and putting proper football people in charge of football matters, because at the moment I don't believe that is the case. I think there's just yes men there and very, very successful businessmen, but successful in being able to build an aeroplane doesn't mean you can build a football club.
That's very true. A very good analogy there, Gary. Thank you. John, just repeat the question for those who may be listening and not 100% following. So if I said to you, again, Tottenham would finish 17th and ENIC would stay for another at least 20 years, or Tottenham finish 18th, go down to the Championship, which of course will hurt, but ENIC leave instantly and they can take whoever. You could take the question, Vinay Lang, whoever you don't like maybe goes with them. What are you saying?
Yeah, I think my worry would, not the only worry, but a major worry there is if we then do go down and ENIC leave, who takes over? than the massive attraction that is Bayern. You know, that we think we're a massive attraction now. It's the stadium, it's London-based, it's the concerts, etc., etc. If you then remove that, the actual asset that you're buying isn't much. Like, there's no point. Like, who's actually going to come in and buy it unless they come in and say, you know, we're going to build this and take it back up. I think in this situation, I'd have to concede that, yeah, maybe Championship football probably wouldn't be ideal. And I'd hope that in this situation, if ENIC do stay, and I think from what we've seen about the Lewises and the new ownership family, they do look incredibly stubborn about, you know, not leaving. There was rumours about a Saudi takeover and stuff. You hope, me personally, I hope that, you know, no matter what happens this season, it is a wake-up call, as what we said, to there needs to be massive change, and what Gary said at the end, putting football people in charge of football stuff. It's not like they don't have the money. It's not like we're in a situation with owners that have, you know, locked it on a crypto scam or something. They're a billionaire family, so it's not like the resources aren't there. It just needs people to put into place and actually start treating the fans like actual football fans and not just, you know, commodities and assets of the business.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Jordan. Do appreciate it. Quick shout out to a couple of people then in the YouTube chat. Dash, they're listening live, of course. He says, hey guys, joining from India, Scarfey Spurs. Thank you very much for the support, India. Thank you very much. And the Spurs, he says, though, I would take staying in the Premier League over anything. He says, the club of our stature and legacy cannot afford to even think of getting relegated. There you go. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It shouldn't be. And that's what I think, believe, you know, along the line of what Gary's saying as well. So yeah, I think you're spot on with that. Thank you very much for getting in touch. You're listening after, of course, by audio platforms, podcast platforms. You can still get in touch. Drop me an email, scarfharry323. Let me know anything about that we discussed, how you feel about it, and how you feel right now as a Spurs fans. There's always a roller coaster of emotions when it comes to Spurs. But on to the game then, North London derby this Sunday. Gary, can I start with you? I want to talk about, very, very briefly, don't like to talk about Arsenal, well, I don't mind after their last result, but what have been your thoughts this season? Does it give you a little bit more confidence maybe that they've dropped more points in 2026, a little bit of vulnerability there?
No, not particularly. I think it comes down to Tottenham Hotspur, if I'm completely honest. If we were performing better, if we were maybe 8th or even 10th, something like that, and we were producing relatively decent performances and there was a good structure and understanding between the players, then maybe, but we're not. We are very much in a relegation fight. We haven't won a single Premier League game in 2026. We are nearly at the end of 2020 nearly at the end of February. That's the biggest concern. I think we need to focus solely on ourselves, and I really, really hope that Igor Tudor's had these 4 or 5 days on the training ground, really installed some discipline into the players, given them his structure, which I'm assuming will probably be a 3-4-2-1 or a 3-4-1-2, depending on how that's normally how he sets up. And then also just uncuffing them, because I think they've been massively handcuffed in a lot of areas this season. And hopefully he's uncuffed them and just tried to install into them and remember who they are as football players. But we should be focused on ourselves. Arsenal are probably the best team in the world at the moment. Every team goes through a little blip. You know, Man City have gone through it, Barcelona, Real Madrid, all the teams. But we need to focus solely on us. So let's just hope that stadium is rocking, which I'm sure it will be. Igor Tudor is about to rip some people's heads off because he looks like he might do. And the players are up for it. And let's worry about us.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. Definitely. But not, want to focus. So not Thomas Frank anymore. We want to focus on Tottenham rather than Arsenal. Jordan, can I ask your thoughts ahead of the North London derby? How do you feel? I mean, it's always, isn't it, a nervous time? North London derby comes out. Also a big opportunity, a lot of excitement, I'm sure. I mean, how much does this change kind of the emotions as well? The fact that you've got a new manager come in and there's that kind of uncertainty, unknown.
Yeah, I think I'm much more confident going into it with would have been any new manager really than the back end of Frank, especially. And as we said there, it's really nice to not have to focus on the other team and actually deploy how we want to play. And obviously it's slightly different because he's only had 5-6 days time it comes around. But the actual game itself, I think it's as much as it's an old cliche in a game like this, the form and stuff does really go out the window. It's not like Arsenal are going to be suddenly bad, because they have had a blip and they're sort of struggling and stuff, like getting over the line especially. I think the first goal will be super important. I think an Arsenal goal might take what should and probably will be a fiery stadium, might cool that down quite a lot. And no doubt they'll be looking for an early goal from what might be a new disjointed sort of defensive system. Especially it might be Byfield or Pellegrini in the back three as well. So I think the first 10, 20, 30 minutes is going to be crucial. But yeah, I haven't actually been, well, not even just this excited. I haven't actually been excited for a Spurs game all season. So it's a welcome change, definitely.
100%, exactly. Excitement as well, and that turns into passion, and if you're there as well to get behind the team, so that's always a good thing. Jordan, thank you. Billy, they always say, don't they, in derbies, particularly this being the North London derby, that form goes out the window. Do you think that's even more true? It goes even more out the window, the fact that Frank Scarfe, it's a complete different way of playing, a different approach to football. You assume it'd be a different team in terms of the formation, the tactics, personnel, everything is different. So do you think as well that it's just like, got to focus, it's just on 90 minutes, forget about how good Arsenal are, like Gary said, focus on ourselves and just treat it as a 90 minutes to go at it and win the game?
Yeah, definitely. Our form will definitely that'll be true for our form without a doubt, because it can't really get any worse, to be honest with you. And I think we just, and what Gary said was particularly important. Like, these guys have just been they've been shackled with a really sort of defensive system lately, and I think just a bit of freedom will see a big difference. I think obviously the only problem being that we just have such a horrific amount of injuries that you can do as much as you want and you can lose form and you can gain form, but when you've got 12 fit players, it's really difficult for anything to happen. So let's hope that doesn't come into play. Definitely, I feel like we'll see a bit of new manager bounce. It's just really unfortunate that we're playing. And yeah, they had a dodgy result last night and they weren't very good. But, let's make no mistake, this is an exceptional team that we're playing against. And I saw a crazy stat that we haven't scored a goal against Arsenal that was either an equaliser or going ahead since the 3-0 at Conte. Like, it's been so bad against them. We haven't even gone 1-0 up against them, or anything like that, since that game. We haven't led against them since that game at 3-0, which is, I think it's 4 or 5 years ago now. So, we've been so bad in the derbies against Arsenal. We were terrible this year, terrible last year, terrible the year before. I think the only positive I can remember is that 2-2 draw at the Emirates since the Conte game, and desperate for a massive home performance. I think last season we were 3-0 down at half-time, or the season before, one of the two was, and it's just been terrible. So just hope we have a little bit. The crowd will be absolutely up for it now, especially after last night. So I'm really looking forward to it now.
100%. Billy, thank you very much. Do appreciate that. Thank you. So, Jordan, I'll come to you because Gary mentioned it there in terms of the fans and how important they are. Do you think that it's a real opportunity for Spurs fans to be that top man, to make it incredibly difficult? Because ultimately, I mean, I know it was only Wolves, but the pressure was on Arsenal yesterday in terms of, for the first time this season, I think the Wolves fans have really got involved. I mean, manager still criticising them because they didn't really come alive till the end. But the point was, the pressure was on Arsenal. And I think we've seen with this Arsenal team in the past, we might even be seeing it now, that they do fold under pressure. It's absolutely, as Billy says, a top side. And Gary said as well, best team in the world of being real at the moment. That's fair to say. I would say the best team in the world. But do you think that being the top man can add that pressure? Do you think that's critical that the fans get behind the team? We've got the TIFO as well. So everything's setting it up to be like really difficult for Arsenal.
100%. It would be in a much nicer situation if it wasn't such a much must-win game and must-win situation that we're in. It would have been nice to go there and just spoil their party, if you will. I think the thing that's been thrown around social so much is, the old Gary Neville quote when it's talking about the fans, just making an absolute cauldron for them, and you sort of see them welter away. It would be absolutely beautiful to see them bottle it again, and see that if we could be a catalyst in that would be amazing. As far as the fans, what you're saying, it's not only just a chance to impact this game and potentially the title race, but also having a whole season of, Thomas Frank telling us that, getting onto the fans pretty much all season, saying, you're not true Tottenham fans, etc., etc. I think it's a brilliant time to get behind the team and get behind something that everyone is at least believing in for a little bit, and really making that difference this time,
Okay, Jordan, thank you very much. That's good to hear. Thank you. Gary, if I come to you, how do you think Tottenham can hurt Arsenal? You speak there how to expect us to line up under Tudor. Of course, back three is mandatory, pretty much in his system, even though we haven't got necessarily the players. I still think that system can bring real strengths. I think, of course, he's used to it and also can benefit the players, like having no wingers, really, because Tell says, I'm not a winger. So if you play like 3-4-2-1, then, you could play, couldn't you, with two inside forwards behind the attacker, not necessarily at wingers. But how do you think that we can really hurt Arsenal? Maybe a vulnerability you see in the Arsenal team, or a real strength individually, or a certain side for Spurs that we can target?
Yeah, just going at them. I think putting pressure on them is where they seem to sort of struggle with. If we can nullify the set pieces, then that's an advantage for us. Like, the good thing is we're not overly too bad with set pieces. We've regressed. If we can sort that out relatively quickly, and maybe we've been working on that this week as well. But just in and around them, not allowing them time, just complete pressure. And funny enough, that's kind of how Igor Tudor plays. And he called him Antonio Conte then, because they play the same way. But Igor Tudor, and as long as there's that high pressure on them and not allowing them any time to settle, then we should be okay. And then with a breakaway, I think it'll be a 2 number 10s. I don't think he's going to go with 2 strikers. I think he'll go with 2 number 10s. Xavi being one, maybe Kolo Muani is the other. I feel like Kolo's definitely going to play some sort because of his relationship with him and he understands it. I think that's a good sign as well. If he's coming into a club, bearing in mind there are a couple of others there that know him, but they obviously can't play in Kulusevski and Bentancur. But if he's got somebody that knows him, that's a good start. So I definitely think that forward line, we can put the pressure on. If we can get in and around their midfield, not allow them any time to settle down, Declan Rice, etc., and then nullify those set pieces, well, I think we could be okay. But it's doing that is a different kettle of fish.
Absolutely. You can have this master of a game plan, but in reality, so things can change so quickly in football, particularly in this big game. Billy, I think you're all making the point very clear. I think you're all right to do so, that we should focus on ourselves. But to cover also the other perspective, as much as we want to focus, we want to attack, where have Tottenham got to be careful? Where must we be mindful of? Where's the real strength, do you think, in the Arsenal team? Or I guess as well, where can they really hurt us, that we just got to just be careful ultimately?
Set pieces, without a doubt, is where they will hurt us. And, pretty much how they score a lot of their goals. I think if you try and play football out of them, or try and get up them, as Brentford showed and Wolves showed in the second half in particular, they struggle. But if you let them dominate set pieces, dominate crosses in the box, then they're really dangerous. I think their back four is incredible. Gabriel Saliba, Calafiori, and whoever they play at right back, Timber will probably play. They just essentially put 4 centre backs in the back, and they're really, really hard to break down. Arsenal, a really, really difficult side. But there's no way we're going to go there and create 100 chances and win 5. We're going to have 5-0 against them, but they're not the best footballing team, so we have to be really careful with set pieces in particular. I know that they will target Vicario, as they do every season, and he's really poor from set pieces. At the same time, we've improved our set pieces ourselves, attacking ones too, so that can get at them as well. But I think that their main threat is definitely set pieces. I think Gyökeres, I think it is shocking, to be honest with you. I thought he was horrendous last night. I think his goal return for how much he spent is terrible. I think he's a really poor footballer. Saka, I think, has started playing in the number 10 in the last couple of games, and obviously, he's just signed a new deal, but. Saka's a bit of a weird one, isn't he? On his day, he can be an absolutely incredible player, but then I think the way that Mikel Arteta sets up to play, I don't think particularly suits Saka that well. I think he'd much rather be under sort of an expansive manager, because the way that Arteta sets up football in general is to, like, you saw it yesterday, is to spoil and be physical and time waste and all that kind of stuff. So we can't let that get into us. We can't give away set pieces, and we just have to try and we'll probably. They do dominate possession with pretty much whoever they play against, so we're going to have to be really, really smart with the ball.
Agree with that, Billy. Good analysis there. Thank you very much. Got to be very smart. It's a good way of putting it. And I saw that they announced that Bukayo Saka's got a new contract. And do you know what? A lot of Arsenal fans are responding angrily to that, which is interesting on social media. And I know that our fans have a go at the club for what they call PR stunts. I think they're right to do so. We'll come out after defeat and it's all, we'll launch this or discount off this. And a lot of people having a go, but it looks like it was agreed in advance. But Arsenal fans aren't happy about that. I did notice that this morning. Jordan, kick us off then with score predictions. So I know it's going to be difficult because I'm sure the head and heart say, even if it's just slightly a different thing. But if you had to be honest and true to yourself, what would your score prediction be? And who's going to get the goals as well? That's the question.
I'll go heart first because heart is telling me that we nick a 2-2 draw. But head is much more of a 3-1 Arsenal, if I'm honest. I think it might just be a little bit too quick. I think there's so much on the line for them. I don't know if Saka's going to be back injured. I know he came off yesterday, but then someone said...
He does regularly, though, doesn't he? He often limps off.
He does the little limp, yeah. You never know. But yeah, I think the new system of him playing in the 10... I think the best way to describe it is like sort of going off what Billy said there. I see Saka as like a Grealish Villa, but often's been made to play like a City Villa, a City Grealish, if that makes sense. Much more of like a ball progression and sort of carrying winger when he should be like much more expansive. So if he is playing centrally, I think that can damage, especially if we want to see Tudor wants to use these sort of higher centre backs, and it might often leave, Dragusin as our deepest, hopefully Mickey van der Ven there with the pace as well. But yeah, heart is going. I think we can nick a draw with everything all considered. I think there will be goals in it regardless. I think not only does, as we say, Tudor play this sort of aggressive counter-pressing football, there will be gaps for us. And as you say, probably the best team in the world at set pieces against, Vicario, who looks worried at the best of times. But yeah, I'll go 3-1 Arsenal, but hopefully a little 2-2.
Okay, I love it. Absolutely. No, especially derbies, you get different what your head and heart says. I mean, I think you'd be lying if you said otherwise. Jordan, thank you very much. Honestly, always the best policy here. Gary, give us your score prediction and who do you think is going to come up with the goals? That's the thing.
Ideal result is a draw. I think if we can pick a point up, that's fantastic. So 1-1 would be good. I do kind of expect to be dominated for large elements of the game. So I think if Arsenal get ahead, it might turn sour for us. So maybe a 2-1, 2-0, something like that. For me, it's kind of a free hit for Tudor. I'm going to judge him based on the next game, purely because there's a lot of players in and around, so a lot of teams in and around us that we need to be picking points up off. However, if we can do Man City a favour and beat Arsenal, that's always a good thing as well. So 1-1 ideal, 2-0 probably more likely.
Okay, Gary, thank you very much. Billy, what do you think the score will be?
My heart is hoping for a 2-2 draw. I think I'd love a draw out of this one. As much as optimistic as you can be, I think it'll be a really difficult game to win. I'll take a 2-2 draw all day. I hope it's not as a 1-0 Arsenal win from a corner or something like that. That would be devastating. But let's go for a 2-2 draw, which I think will be a very good start for Tudor.
Love it. Thank you very much. Got a comment here in the YouTube chat from Samar who says his head says 3-0 Arsenal, but his heart says 3-0 Spurs. So talk about the polar opposite there. That's the type of comment I think we'll be seeing a lot and up until Sunday. But to wrap it up then, I want us all, because we haven't had a game yet under Igor Tudor, to predict where he thinks Spurs will be at the end of the year. He said what we want in terms of what to achieve. So, Billy, I come to you first. In the Premier League, and I do again appreciate this is difficult, where do you think we'll be come May, the end of the season, in the Premier League, and in terms of what place would be, but also how many points on the board?
So we've got 12 games left. I think we might win about maybe half of them. So I think we'll end up finishing about 12, hopefully. And then, we can move on from relegation, worry about relegation. It'll still obviously be 12 would be a a disastrous finish for Tottenham. Let's not get it wrong. But in terms of being relegated, I think that'd be all right. And then hopefully we might get through to the quarterfinals of Champions League or something like that. And Tudor will move on. But then we need a massive, massive summer because we cannot be finishing in the bottom half 3 seasons in a row. Otherwise, we essentially just become a bottom half team. That's unforgivable for us. So I think we'll stay up. I would love, in my heart of hearts, if we could somehow scrape back into Europe. But I just think with the injuries, the fact that we'll be missing Madison, Kulusevski, and a lot of other players still, we're not massively far away. We'd have to probably win like 7 or 8 games out of 12. But I just feel like we're just going to survive, and then that'll probably be it.
Definitely. And 12 is a lot more positive than some people will say. So thank you very much, Billy, for that. Gary, where do you think we'll be in the league, position-wise, and a rough points tally as well?
If we could sneak into the Conference League, I'd be absolutely delighted. The reality is, it might not happen. I think there's probably 5 wins out of the remaining 12 that could probably sneak. So teams in and around us. So for me, hopefully, 5 wins catapult us up, get some unity back between players and fans, and try and finish the season strong, and then going into the summer. So I'm concerned that we're in a relegation fight, but I'm not concerned given looking at the fixtures and that we have made that change to Tudor. I'm not as concerned as I probably would have been with Thomas Frank still leading the team. So I think he was too pragmatic. He was too scared to do anything. And I think that was clearly coming off on the players. Watching Igor Tudor, as you know, I'm a huge Serie A fan, so I've watched him loads. He's a very, very passionate individual, as you can probably tell. So I'm almost certain he's going to get a real good tune out of a number of these guys. And ultimately, it is the players that hands that it's in, and they don't want to be playing championship football next season either. They don't want to be doing that for their careers. So, yeah, I think we're going to be all right. I hope 4 or 5 wins out of the remaining 12 will catapult us out of where we are. But like Billy says, big summer, probably the most important summer maybe that I can remember. Certainly in my time as supporting the club 35 years. We need the right manager in, which I think we all know who that needs to be. And then we need to start rebuilding this football club.
Absolutely, Gary, 100%. And by the way, I think we need a touchline cam at the weekend. Arteta can't stay in his technical box, and I think gets away with it most of the time in Tudor as well. I mean, for Marseille, he was on the pitch, wasn't he? We were way on the counter-attack. If you remember that in the Champions League, he was on the pitch, frustrated at his defenders. So definitely very animated. You're right to mention that, Gary. Thank you very much. Jordan, then, where do you think we'll finish in the Premier League? Do you agree with the guys that, we'll be okay ultimately in terms of relegation?
Yeah, I try not to get too sort of fantastical about the situation that we're in. I do think technically we are in a relegation battle, but even with the injuries, I think player quality can take you through quite a lot of games. With a change of instruction coming away from Frank, definitely. I think anywhere between getting into the top half, considering where we are now, would be a good end to the season. I think out of the 12, there's definitely, as Gary said, I think there's a definite 4 or 5 wins there. And if that can sneak to 6 with a good few draws, I think we'll be fine in the Premier League. Champions League, depending on who we get, I'm not going to lie, the Champions League tree thing makes no sense to me, so I don't actually know who it can be. I'm pretty sure it's going to be Galatasaray or someone else. I don't actually know who we're going to get, but I remember seeing out of the options, I know it was like Atleti, Juve,
Yeah.
Who's it most likely, going off the games, who's it most likely to be?
Galatasaray.
Yeah.
Brugge and Atletico drew though, so you never know. But they've got to go to Atletico, so probably Atletico and Galatasaray. Out
of Atletico and Galatasaray, there's, if we're saying there's 6 wins in the Prem, there's no reason why we can't get through that. But then I know we start after that round, you start getting into some really heavy fixtures. So if you can get through the next round of the Champions League, and top half would be nice, but anywhere from 12th onwards would be a good solid interim in charge for Tudor.
Okay, fantastic stuff. I think that wraps us up nicely then for this episode of the Scarfey Spurs podcast. Thank you to everyone that's listened, whether it be live on YouTube, afterwards on YouTube, also afterwards on any audio or podcast platform. Thank you very much as always. Let's go through then and see if we can follow our wonderful guests on social media. Billy, Thursday, thank you very much for coming on. Always good to have you. Where can people follow you on social media and also Change for Spurs?
Yeah, you're very welcome, and it's been great to be on with these guys as well. Loved it, and just Billie T on Twitter or Change for Spurs on Twitter, and do the rounds on YouTube as always. But the whistle blows on YouTube as well.
Yes, great stuff. People do check that out. Billy, thank you very, very much. Gary, great to have you back on as well, twice in quick concession. I'm very lucky, so thank you very much. Where can people follow you personally on all social media and also your brand new channel?
Yeah, thanks for having me again, Harry. At Gary R. Ward on Twitter. If you want to talk about Tottenham, obviously, or Serie A, MLS. MLS starts the weekend, so I'm a big MLS fan. If you want to talk that, be great. Project Spurs as well. We go out most weeks, pretty much every week. But yeah, everyone's welcome across there. But again, thanks for having me. Enjoyable show and hopefully a positive result of the weekend.
Fingers crossed, literally fingers, toes, you name it, all crossed for that. Gary, thank you very, very much. Jordan, thank you very much for coming on. Great to have you on for the second time. Definitely get you on very soon. So thank you very much. Where can people follow you on social media?
No, I appreciate it, mate. I've really enjoyed speaking to you and the guys as well. Yeah, my personal Twitter is Geordie, second Geordie with a 0. And I'm also doing a little bit of analysis work over on Lily White Lab as well. So feel free to check them out as well.
Oh, fantastic stuff. Keep up the good work, all of you. Thank you very much. Hopefully everyone enjoyed this episode. Most importantly, massive come you Spurs for Sunday.
Thanks, guys.